Hi, I'm Judy Tyabji. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today's show is dedicated to the memory of Courtney Walls, and as I mentioned on Monday, I've known Courtney for quite a few years. He and I are both from Kelowna. I knew him there, and we both went to UVic at the same time together, ended up back in Kelowna for a while together, and so I knew him quite well. And it's quite a loss to the community. Today's subject goes under the heading of justice. As you know, we've talked about family rights, we've talked about justice expired, and we've talked about criminal harassment. Today we're looking at the issue of street violence. And as I said, obviously I can't be particularly objective in this particular case because I happen to know Courtney Walls. And I think in that perspective it's brought home to me how this can happen to any one of us. And many of us have been thinking in the last few weeks about violence in the street. We talked about what happened to Rena Verk a few weeks ago, and we've certainly been talking about what's happening with our young people over the last 6 months. But let's just take a look at what's happening in Victoria and how this might apply to all of us.
We like to think of our corner of the world as being a relatively safe place to live. But it's hard to shake the feeling that violence and danger may be just around the next corner.
It scares you. What's going on with teenagers today?
Ron and his friend Renee were victims of swarming.
We were on Johnson Street. We were just off of Broad Street, and we were standing, talking to each other, minding our own business, when these 3 young teenagers, 2 males and a female, walked by, asked for a cigarette. Renee gave them the last cigarette that he had, and then they left.
But they came back, and that caused Ron and Renee to be wary.
We asked them if they had a problem or what they were doing watching us, and then they got belligerent with us.
Out of nowhere, the teens attacked.
The 2 guys just attacked us. They just bashed us, our faces in, and ran off. And before I knew it, Renee was on the ground. I think he was unconscious for a couple minutes. It was full of blood.
And there's the unforgettable story of Jesse Constable. He and his brother were attacked outside a house on Head Street on Halloween 1996. He spent many months in hospital, near death, and doctors believed he would never fully recover and lead a normal life. Jesse did come back. A miracle recovery, really. But the depth of shock and outrage over the brutal, senseless attack left people with a lingering feeling of fear.
Now stop.
And now another senseless act of violence. 33-year-old Courtney Walls rushed to hospital after an altercation on Douglas Street in the afternoon in broad daylight with shoppers and traffic all around. Courtney was stabbed in the chest. He died on the operating table.
He's one of those people that is so incredibly, I guess, caring and gifted in being able to make you feel like you're worth $1 million every time he sees you. He's got a big happy smile, and he's just one of those guys that just comes through like a champion every time.
Courtney Walls was loved and respected, and his violent death had people shaking their heads and asking yet again if the streets of the city are safe, or are we safe anywhere? Many people say they aren't worried, and although acts of violence have a huge impact, they are rare.
There's always stabbings. There's always things that are bad going to happen everywhere, so I'm not going to stop going downtown.
I think no matter where you're going to live, you're always going to encounter some sort of violence.
True, it may never be a perfect world, but when we know of violence and danger, do we just shrug it off?
I know that it's human nature to always say good things about people after they die, especially if it's very tragic. But I think it's hard to understand, if you knew Courtney, how very special he was. And although people do always say nice things after they die, don't minimize what people are saying. We've heard it from all of his friends. Right now, the memorial service is underway. People were lining up an hour ahead of time, and the cathedral in downtown Victoria is already overflowing. Not everybody will be able to fit inside. I'm sure many of them came out from Kelowna for the service. So we'll talk about this. We'll talk about not just this incident, but whether or not violence is affecting you. Do you think that this is an anecdote, an aberration, or is it a symptom? And we'll be taking your calls to this number after the break.
What do you get with Amigo Digital? Every month you get 100 anytime minutes and 100 first incoming minutes free.
Yeah, I'm free.
You get call display.
Staying in touch doesn't mean staying in.
And oh yeah, there's no long-term contract.
I call the shots.
And you get it all for just $19.95 a month. Amigo Digital. It goes with you.
switch that dial, cause this is gonna make you smile. See these warm, toasty sweaters for your family? At 30% off, put them under your tree. And comfy, cozy robes, all at 25% off now. And only at Eaton's. Wow! 30% off men's dress shirts and ties. There's Christian Dior, Arrow, Hathaway, and Distinction for all you guys. And there's me, Mr. Magical Moose. Only $9.93.
Call to order Rogers Me TV now and you could win a trip to historic England.
I'm so into history.
Or one of 10 Sony home theaters. There's over $300,000 in prizes, including a grand prize of $50,000. The earlier you enter, the more chances to win. And with 16 channels for as little as $5.99, you can't lose. Order Me TV today to win. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1.
Here at Thrifty Foods, we have some beautiful breads. Here, can you smell it? Can you smell it?
Kraft Miracle Whip Light for chicken strips or things like that. He mixes it with barbecue sauce and he adds a few little other spices and makes his own little special dip. The one with the zip?
Nabob Coffee, my favorite brand. Well, I've used it since ever I've been in Canada. It's a very nice flavor. I love my Nabob.
Vancouver Island's best smelling food store.
And there have been a number of incidents over the last few weeks that have turned our minds to violence on the street. Are they incidents that are unfortunate, or are they symptoms of something a little bit more problematic? And if so, what do we want to do about it, or what do we want to do about the perception of a problem with violence? We have with us two police officers from Victoria. Now, I should stress that although this recent incident was in Victoria and they're from Victoria, we would like to talk about this in your own neighborhoods, whether you're in the Lower Mainland or Upper Island or Central Coast. Feel free to phone in as well. And we have with us Inspector Harvey Stevenson. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Judy.
And Darren Lauer, you are with the Victoria Police, a constable, and you do a lot of street work.
That's right.
Okay. I want to start with you, Harvey. There's a number of statistics that we're going to share with the viewers a little later about BC and violence, and certainly I obviously, as I expressed, are very shocked at this particular incident. What should we be making of these statistics or these events?
Well, first of all, the statistics, the British Columbia statistics, it shows that violent crime is on the increase, and that's really unfortunate. British Columbia leads in a lot of things. I believe British Columbia leads in the amount of alcohol consumed per capita. I don't think it's any secret that alcohol tends to fuel violence. We lead the country in violent crime. We certainly have our share in the Greater Victoria area as well as in the City of Victoria. And another unfortunate incident in Greater Victoria happened last week, and we are all truly sad with the passing of Court Wells, and Victoria Police have heartfelt condolences for the family.
Okay, I want to bring into this, Darren. I know that some people will say, well, we shouldn't, and I certainly don't want to sensationalize anything. That is never my intention. Mm-hmm. But in this case, there are many people, myself included. I used to feel very safe downtown and take my kids down, and even in the evenings. Right. I would not do that now. Now, whether that's legitimate or not, what are your comments on that?
I'm the downtown beat officer, and I can say that the City of Victoria is a very safe place to be, but from about 9 p.m. to about 3 a.m. in the morning, it takes on a different face, mostly because of the increased people going to a lot of our liquor establishments in the downtown core. And like Inspector Stevenson said, a lot of the assaults that we attend in the downtown city core are directly alcohol related.
Okay, so then are you saying that in the wake of some, for example, in the incident that happened last week, well, basically, I don't want to call it an incident, with the murder that happened last week, that there would be no action taken, for example, to say, okay, well, this is an indication of something. You just look at it as an isolated event?
No, it was an unfortunate thing that happened, but it is a rarity. It's a reality, but it's definitely a rarity in our downtown city core, especially at that time of day. And at that location. Again, I can't stress that walking around the downtown city core during the day is a very safe place to be.
Okay.
I think one thing, Judy, you need to take into consideration is there are a tremendous amount of people that come downtown into what we call our Delta 1 area, which is the downtown area. We break up the city of Victoria in 5 patrol districts, Delta 1 being one of them. There are 10 times as many people in the downtown area as we have in the surrounding areas, and subsequently the surrounding municipalities in their areas too. So we have a huge influx of people coming downtown, and we do have some isolated instances with those people. And this murder, as you say, is a very, very unfortunate situation.
Okay, we're going to hear from some of you now, and I see that the lines are jammed, and we want to make sure that as many of you as possible get a chance to express your opinions. And we'll start with Pat in Victoria. Hi, Pat.
Hello, Judy. I'm in full agreement. I don't want to go downtown anymore at night. There's 2 things that frighten me. It's not the people in the bars, because I don't stay out that late, but it seems like there's all kinds of young 15 to 17-year-old kids in groups. Lots of foul language, girls and boys included. And the other thing you have to contend with is dogs. I mean, there's just dogs everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of them unattended, pit bull type dogs.
Right.
And it's frightening. It really, truly is frightening. And I go along with your opinion on that.
Okay, well, thank you, Pat. Darren, as the downtown beat cop, as I said, in the summer, I took 4 of our kids to an early show.
Right.
And in fact, we went into that subway afterwards, and the whole time I was concerned because of the presence of all these people. But you'd want to extend a generosity of spirit to people. You don't want to suspect anything.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do that now.
No, it's absolutely, and I think what's important to understand is that knowledge is power. And the issue of being safe downtown all comes down to understanding what to do and what not to do. It is a very safe place to be. I agree with the caller that yes, we do have a lot of use in the downtown core, but we also have 2 youth outreach teams that work down there exclusively with those youth. As of January, there's going to be a dedicated beat patrol downtown. And with regards to the dogs, I know the city is under contract with the CRD, who comes in, I think, bi-weekly now to make sure that the dogs are licensed and taken care of. And if they find that that's not happening, then they're taking appropriate measures.
Okay. Now we're going to talk to Barry in Victoria. Hi, Barry.
Hi, how are you today?
Fine, thanks. Go ahead.
That's good. I really don't think it's, a lot of people blame the police, they're not doing their job properly, but I think they are doing the best of their ability.
Right.
And it's more along the lines for the Young Offenders Act. There's a lack of discipline in the home now, because you can't really discipline your child the way you used to be beforehand, before this act was put into place. And the young people know that if the parents, do, instead of spoiling the rod, spare the child type thing, if you do discipline your child in that way, where you, hit your child for something, they can be charged, and the kids know this stuff, and they can get away with it.
Okay, I think obviously I've heard from a number of people that they're concerned about a discipline issue, and I think he's raised the issue of the Young Offenders Act. To what extent is that something that plays into your role as police officers?
Well, certainly there are some limitations to the Young Offenders Act with respect to punitive actions towards youth, and Barry is quite correct in that, and thanks for the endorsement of the police, by the way.
Yeah, well, I think most people think you guys are doing the best you can.
Interestingly enough, downtown Victoria always seems to, and Victoria seems to wear the brunt of problems for the capital region, but realistically in the city of Victoria, we have 1 high school, 2 junior high schools, and 10 elementary schools, by far the lowest percentage of school children, and most of our youth problems are caused by people coming from the outside areas, and I think that, and Barry is correct, that the hold that people had, certainly when I was growing up, over their children, young people, is not there today, and people do tend to be a little, have a lot more freedom, and consequently we do have people coming downtown and hanging around in groups of people. Also, I live in Saanich, and there are areas in Saanich, as with every other municipality, where youth congregate, and it seems that with youth congregation, people have some fear of crime.
Okay, we're going to share with you now some statistics, then we'll go right back to the phones, but these are very recent, and you should know that the latest crime statistics for British Columbia paint an alarming picture. In the area of violent crime last year, there were over 1,400 cases per 100,000 population. That's up 0.3% from 1995. Compare that to the national picture. In that area, there were 973 violent crimes per 100,000, and that figure is down 2.2% from the year before. Violent youth crime follows the same trend, with more than 1,000 per 100,000 population. That compares to just over 900 cases per 100,000 nationally. And BC's murder rate is high, 3.2 killings per 100,000 population, compared to a national rate of 2.1. And the source for these figures is the Canadian Centre for Justice Statistics. And there is a sharp rise in Victoria crime statistics for the period from January through October of this year, and this includes all of Victoria. Violent crimes are up 21%, assaults jumped 24%, and crimes involving prohibited weapons are up 17%. Crimes with weapons not considered prohibited are up a staggering 81%. And I understand you have some comments on those statistics.
Well, as you mentioned, they are not statistics pertaining to downtown Victoria. They pertain to all of our areas. You know, I think it's interesting. I believe that the infrastructure in the province has kind of fallen down a lot. We have the highest amount of alcoholism and the highest amount of alcohol being consumed in the country, but yet we don't have a proper detox center in downtown Victoria.
But those are after the fact services, though.
Well, they are, but also the youth services to deal with the kids and the street problem downtown and people hanging around and places for youth to go, I think are part of the infrastructure problem that seems to be decaying.
Okay, let's talk to Anne now in Vancouver. Hi, Anne.
Oh, hi. I've been watching the show here, and I really do think that kids should take responsibility for their actions. There's no consequences for these children. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old myself, and they know it's wrong to steal. They know it's wrong to hurt anybody else.
Right.
And a lot of these kids have no consequences. When I was a child growing up in England, if you screwed up, you got a record, and there was no second chances. So you didn't screw up the first time.
Okay, I'm going to let Darren comment on that because we're near a break. And in this case too, with Courtney Walls, the murderer went back into the subway and picked up a knife and came back out and stabbed him.
I guess what the caller is saying is, you know, youth need to, or everybody needs to take responsibility for their actions. And there's a whole variety of reasons why that is or is not happening. I think it's far too easy to come up with a pat answer as to why people aren't feeling sorry for what it is they're doing, or if they are. It starts at a young age and it builds up to an older age, and I believe that kind of stuff should start in the home at a young age and be emphasized and built as the child grows older.
Okay, well, we have to take a quick break and we'll be back with more of your calls, and we're talking about street violence.
Tyabji is brought to you in part by Metro Lexus Toyota, leaders in customer satisfaction.
This holiday from Eden's, discover the famous fragrance Dolce & Gabbana for men or for women, and receive absolutely free this signature t-shirt. This holiday season.
How old are you? I was going to guess by your eyes, I'd say you were 50.
If I went by your eyes, I'd say you were kind.
The people you can't live with.
Why can't I just have a normal boyfriend?
Everybody wants that. It doesn't exist.
Become the people you can't live without.
You look at someone long enough, you discover their humanity.
Come on in and try not to ruin everything by being you.
Jack Nicholson, As Good as It Gets, opens everywhere December 25th.
Thrifty Foods, where savings comes in a bunch.
Kellogg's Just Right. A perfect combination of 4 delicious grains that you can see and taste. Just Right's a great, healthy breakfast.
It's Nescafe Rich Blend coffee. It's instant coffee, but it tastes like regular drip. I like Nescafe.
Science in the aisle for you. Season's greetings from Thrifty Foods. Thrifty Foods.
Hi, this is Brian Adams asking you to help support the SPCA. Tens of thousands of lost, abandoned, and abused animals come into BC shelters every year. It's important to know that the SPCA is not government funded. It relies on the generosity of animal lovers like you to fund their services. Please do what you can to help by adopting an animal or giving a donation of money or time. The animals are depending on us.
It's here.
Tell me I'm not shallow.
You're not shallow.
You have to say it like you mean it, Josh.
Where the truth comes out.
I know I should change the world, but right now I just want to change my ass.
Veronica's Closet, tonight at 9:30.
And today we're talking about street violence. Our guests are Inspector Harvey Stevenson with the Victoria Police Department and Constable Darren Lauer, also with the Victoria Police Department and in the downtown area. And we did have an opportunity to talk to Victoria Mayor Bob Cross today. He is attending the service, but we asked him about the issue of curfews, which has been raised a number of times over the last few weeks when it comes to youth on the street. And here's what he said when we asked him if he thought it was a solution.
Just before I say yes or no, I want to clarify that a lot of the problems we've had with violence around British Columbia are not youth. So, but answering your question regarding a curfew for youth, I think ideally it used to work in earlier times, but it would not be enforceable. I think clearly if we're dealing with youth, there has to be control from the home. We cannot be babysitting, having our police handling young people on the streets. Unless they're breaking the law, of course. But so it is not enforceable, in my opinion. We'd be setting ourselves up for something we couldn't enforce.
I think that's a very interesting comment. It echoes some of the comments of the callers. We'll try to get quite a few calls in this segment and respond to people. Let's talk to Ron in Campbell River now. Hi, Ron.
Oh, hi. I was just thinking, what about foot patrols during the high crime time period?
Right. Okay.
And like myself, I developed a very poor attitude towards the law when I was younger, and I don't know why. It was like a we against them attitude, and one of the reasons I think it was because any involvement I ever had with police officers was always bad news, and so like they're trying to get me.
Okay. And so
I'd retaliate by committing crimes and getting away with them, and then that's how I got even.
Okay.
And
well, I think
it was pretty far into my adulthood when I overcame that, and I noticed that with my own kids.
That they go through a phase like that.
Yeah, and it took took quite a while for my son to realize that he was responsible for his actions, not me or anybody else.
Okay, well, thank you. I think you've raised an interesting comment, foot patrol.
And I think it's important that your viewers know that we do have a dedicated foot patrol downtown. Myself and I have a partner now, as well as we have 2 youth outreach teams, both who's a serving police officer who works with a youth outreach worker, as well as we have a mountain bike squad of 10 members as well. So, and come January, each patrol platoon is also going to dedicate another person as a foot patrol. So we do have a lot of foot patrol and bike patrol in the downtown core.
Okay. Let's talk to Lisa now in Vancouver. Hi, Lisa.
Hi there.
Hi, go ahead.
It was interesting what the last caller just said, actually, about how he basically, what he was saying is that he had no respect for the law as a young kid.
Right.
And I'm aware of a 16-year-old at the moment who's been into trouble with the law and knows that he's not going to get in trouble because he is under 18.
Right.
And so that's part of, I think, supporting what I believe should happen. It's lowering the age for prosecution as an adult. I think it should be lowered to about 16, because I think at 16 they know what they're doing.
Okay.
They may not have the maturity of an adult, but they know what they're doing. And also I was thinking about the idea of if there was any possible way to control the loitering going on in the streets of Victoria.
Okay.
Because I happen to know that last Friday was not the first time that this person and his teenage colleagues had harassed Courtney.
Okay.
It was an ongoing thing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And I know you said before the show started that you have to be careful what you comment on this case, but what are your comments?
Yes, this case, as you know, is still under investigation and is before the courts, so I don't feel comfortable to make comments with respect to it. With respect to the youth's age being dropped, for serious crimes such as murder, the automatic raising of a child 16 to adult court is on the books, and that's of course happened in the Burke situation.
That's an option right now.
Yes, and what we're looking at is a total reform, a look at the Young Offenders Act, and that is in the works. So I'm not sure it'll be broad sweeping changes, but I believe there will be some changes to the Young Offenders Act.
And I think the vagrancy issue, I think the viewers should know that there is no vagrancy law in the books anymore. That was taken away from us many years ago.
You mean that you can't prevent people from loitering?
That's right, unless they're committing a criminal act of some kind. So.
Okay. We're going to show you how you can contribute if you are someone who would like to assist. As many of you may know, in Courtney Wall's case, his wife was 8 months pregnant, is 8 months pregnant, so he will never see his baby. But there's a Courtney Wall's Trust Fund. The checks can be made out to Jones Emery in Trust for Courtney Walls, and you can mail or drop them at Jones Emery Law Office, Suite 1212, 1175 Douglas Street, Victoria, BC, V8W 2E8. And we'd like to hear more from you on your opinions. Today we're talking about street violence, and we'll be right back after a quick break.
Merry Christmas, baby. Should it treat me nice?
Hi, sweetie. How's LA? Yeah, they took that there. Yeah, the place is looking fine. Pretty empty, though. Any chance you could hop on a plane? Be here for Christmas? Yeah. Yeah, I miss you, too. There's someone at the door.
Merry Christmas, baby. 50 foods where savings comes in a bunch.
Kellogg's Just Right. A perfect combination of 4 delicious grains that you can see and taste. Just Right's a great, healthy breakfast.
It's Nescafe Rich Blend coffee. It's instant coffee, but it tastes like regular drip. I like Nescafe.
The smiles in the aisle for you. Season's greetings from Thrifty Foods. Thrifty Foods.
Refus global. Come on, that was in 48. Fear of prejudice, fear of public opinion, of total condemnation, fear of finding yourself alone without God. It's enough to make you sick to your stomach when you see all of the rewards given to appalling cruelty, the threats, the mindless excesses, to the manufacture of mountains of useless goods. Life goes on. The important thing is to be able to create. Isn't it? Refus global. That piece of paper cost me a lot. Forced to finish his days in exile. The poor artist. There. Étoile Noire.
A manifesto decrying the stifling conditions of Quebec society in the 40s was written by a group of artists led by Paul-Émile Bordua.
Our question of the day today, do you feel safe on the streets? And here are some comments from people we met.
I feel pretty safe. About what happened last week in front of Len's Cafe, before that I didn't really realize what was going on and stuff, but now I kind of get the picture. It's a bit more scarier now that you know what's actually going on in the city and stuff.
In the day I feel it's all right, and I used to walk around downtown night all the time, but now I wouldn't, and my husband picks me up every day from work because I won't walk home anymore. I don't feel safe here.
Now, what do you think would change that for you?
You know, I don't know. And I don't even really know what it is that frightens me, but I just am frightened, so.
I feel fine. I live in England, and being here is like a real treat. So yeah, I love it. I have no worries coming downtown.
I'm a downtown shopper, so I come downtown because I enjoy the downtown. I enjoy the ambience and the buildings and things like that, but I know that these things exist, and I don't know the solution any more than anybody else does. But it doesn't deter me from coming to the downtown.
And we're going to take a couple of calls from Victoria, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we can make ourselves a little bit safer on the street. But first we'll talk to Cheryl in Victoria. Hi, Cheryl.
Good afternoon. I just want to commend the police force. They've got a hard task to do downtown. I'm an employee downtown.
Right.
Second comment is there anything that can be done with like a youth police force get together, like a joint venture, perhaps having the officers in the school, having some of the 13 to 15-year-old students getting involved in about the law and how things are done and how much of a tough task it is for the police. Maybe if we work together on this, we can better the streets.
Okay, I think that's an interesting. Is there a solution with the young people?
Well, I think education is a partial solution, and in Victoria for the last 10 years we've been doing the DARE program with our 12 and 13-year-old students in the schools. We're actually going to try and take an enhanced DARE into junior high schools and high schools, which will be the first time it's done in the province. And there's a lot more.
The DARE program, it stands for?
I'm sorry, it's Drug Abuse Resistance Education. It was started in Los Angeles about 20 years ago. It's a police officer going into the class and doing 14 one-hour lessons on everything from street proofing and gang proofing to the law and resistance to drugs and that sort of thing.
And there's another coordinated effort going on right now, sparked by Tom Woods from Esquimalt Police Department with Rock Solid, who's working with members from our department, the Saanich Police Department, Oak Bay, and they're going into the schools right now and talking about violence and how youth can go about helping us out as well as themselves.
Right. Okay. Let's talk now. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. I'm going to put you on. We'll talk to John in Victoria. Hi, John. Are you there? Hope I did this right. Actually, Darren, why don't you tell us while I figure this out, how we can make ourselves safe?
I guess the best way to stay safe is to be aware of yourself and what's going on around
there's
there.
Somebody there.
Oh, and the predator is a lazy person, or the street person who's going to pick you as a target is a lazy person. But we know that right now in the downtown core, a lot of times they'll conduct a specific type of interview to ascertain if you're a safe target or not. One of the primary ones is what we call the heated interview, where what will happen is you'll be walking down the street, somebody will say something to you, and the purpose of saying that something to you is to get a negative response from you.
Okay.
And what that negative response will do will give me a reason now to confront you verbally, if not physically. So one of the things we try to get across to people is, as you're walking around, walk with a purpose. If somebody says something to you that you don't like, ignore it and keep walking, because if you turn and confront, you're probably asking for a verbal confrontation, if not going to a physical confrontation.
But it almost seems like that's part of the problem. I mean, if people can bait you just because you're walking down the street and feel like that gives them permission to then, do something illegal to you.
But I guess the danger lies in is if you turn and confront now and say something back in their mind, that will give them the reason they want to do something. And if they're in front of peers and they've said something to you and you say something back, they're going to want to save face in front of their peers.
Okay, let's see if this works. Let's talk to Peter in Ladysmith.
Yeah, hello?
Hi, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is there's no deterrent. I advocate the return of corporal and capital punishment, and also that what happens, some young offender, they get a slap on the wrist with a wet piece of spaghetti, and that's all there is to it. It's just dreadful what's happened to this country in my 70 years.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Certainly you hear from people who remember that the 50s was very different, that some of the problems are that we're just not strict enough. And I'm becoming a bit of a reactionary, actually, over the last few weeks. What are your comments on that?
Well, I think in British Columbia, with enhanced diversion, we're tending to direct first-time offenders away from the courts and look for some alternative sources like family group conferencing and getting some help before it gets too far. And I think that there's some merit to that. There's not enough room to put everybody in jail for sure.
Well, yeah, but I think if, you know what they say, an ounce of prevention and all that. But anyway, let's talk to Rob in Mission. Hi, Rob.
How are you?
Fine, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that I think today with the problems with the youth, a lot of it stems from the home. You've got both working parents, so there's nobody really teaching a sense of values, sense of morals to these kids anymore, except for the people in the schools, their friends. They're learning most of their lessons from what they see on television. They become desensitized to crime and to violence because that's all we see on television. And the only solution, or something that I think might be something to look at, would be make the parents responsible in some way, so that they get it across that if they don't instill these values and these morals in their children and let them know what's really right and what's really wrong and what can get away with, instead of that they should have to pay a consequence. I'm sorry, either make the parents accountable up to a certain age, and then make the children's accountable. Get them into community work instead of jails. Make them do community work. Clean the city up instead of locking them away.
Okay. Well,
I think it's really important that it's like Mayor Cross said, that 98% of our youth are good people.
And I think everybody knows that. It's just the 2% that are causing problems.
And what happens is it whitewashes all the other youth. As you know, if we see a group of youth gathering, they must be bad. Well, that's not true. I mean, it's 2% or less of our youth are the ones that are maybe causing the problems, but all of our youth seem to be getting whitewashed as a result of that.
But maybe if just as an idea, if we made an example out of the 2% who were causing problems, instead of putting them at what people think we treat them very softly now, if we made an example of them, that would differentiate them from the other youth.
Well, I don't think we should get real hung up on youth as being the perpetrators of violent crimes. I mean, that they do violent crimes, but by and large, the young male adult and realistically now we're seeing more young female adults as well committing these crimes. So we just can't dwell on youth and juveniles. We have to dwell on society as a whole, I believe.
Okay. Let's talk to Carrie in Duncan. Hi, Carrie.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me on, and to the constable and the other officer for coming in. I wanted to express my deepest sincere sympathies to the Wall family. I'd also like to comment that, just like was just mentioned, I do believe it stems from a symptomatic problem that we're seeing throughout society, where we are desensitized to violence, and the respect issue and honoring issue of life in general has, I believe, reached an all-time low.
Right.
I don't really have any solution other than I do believe that having a higher power to answer to, having being made in the image of something greater than just man, does help. And I think that has proved to be one of the reasons our society is falling, and the standards of acceptable violence is rising.
Okay.
I just wanted to express also my thanks to the officers in Duncan, because they do present such a wonderful outreach to the youth. I don't think the youth are the problem. I think that they are the result and the actual wake-up call for society to maybe view this problem as what it is, which is serious.
Okay, well, thank you. I think she's offered quite a few things without getting into a religious discussion with respect to young people being a symptom. What I find often when I do these programs is that people who come in who represent government or police officers or people who are part of the institutions are always reassuring us that there's not really a problem, but the callers are all saying this is a very serious issue that needs to be dealt with. And I always find that the contrast is a bit startling. Where do you think there's the common ground?
Well, I wouldn't want to lead you to the thought that Victoria Police do not think that we have a problem. We just do not see it quite as concentrated as 1 square mile downtown, as certainly the news media likes to portray it to be. We see it as a problem that's happening throughout British Columbia, obviously, with your earlier stats, and throughout Victoria. There are youth problems in high schools, in suburban high schools. We have had incidents in Sydney, we've had incidents in Saanich, we've had incidents in Esquimalt. It's not all pertaining to downtown Victoria, and as Darren has said, there are a number of things that you can do to avoid problems, not just on the streets of downtown Victoria, but on the streets where you live. I think that we all need to be a little bit more conscious of how to reduce the opportunity of being victimized, and also with respect to a number of callers, the family structure. Dealing more with the family structure, I think, is very important.
Okay, we have lots more, I'm sure, to cover on this. We'll be right back after a break.
Celebrate the season with a Dairy Queen frozen cake. It's the perfect dessert for a perfect time of year. So cool and so good. So make your next holiday gathering festive with a Dairy Queen frozen cake. They're decorated with cheer, and they're DQ through and through.
Call to order Rogers Me TV now, and you could win a trip to historic England.
I'm so
going to history.
Or one of 10 Sony home theaters. There's over $300,000 in prizes, including a grand prize of $50,000. The earlier you enter, the more chances to win. And with 16 channels for as little as $5.99, you can't lose. Order MeTV today to win. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1.
Day is near, work's mostly done. I just can't wait to watch the fun.
Don't miss our last 2-day power sale of the year this weekend at Sears. To make it even easier, we're opening early on Saturday, and the savings are incredible. Save on all TVs and stereos. And save 25% on all men's and women's national brand denim. Plus, earn double Sears Club points with your Sears card.
Come see the merry side of Sears.
Americas. Millions of you have skinny hair. Well, stop hiding it. From Conair, get the big curls, hot air, curling iron, and brush. Styles as it dries, brushes in volume. Nobody's bigger in hair than Conair.
Euro Salon Dryer by Conair combines the best of sleek European styling and advanced engineering. With 1600 watts, 3 heat settings, 2 speeds, and a cool shot button, this hair dryer gives you the power to style quickly with great versatility and control.
And we're going to show you some more comments to our question of the day. Our question of the day, do you feel safe on the streets? And here's what Lee McKenzie found when she asked people.
I don't like to be downtown once it gets dark, but in the daytime I feel okay.
Not afraid. I think they're isolated incidents, hopefully. It's bad. Violence, I think, is getting worse, but personally I've never had any violence or anything.
For people who are afraid, what do you think the answers are?
Wait, curfews for kids? I think too many kids just do what they want, don't have anywhere to go.
I don't think I would come downtown at night alone by myself, but I think that if you're intelligent about what you're doing downtown, then you're fine, I would think.
What are some answers for people who do feel afraid?
I think you just have to be aware of what's going on around you and try not to get into a bad situation. That's what I would recommend, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
It would really bother me if I thought that people were trying to imply that the reason Courtney Walls was murdered was because he did something stupid. Because he's a very bright person, and although I wasn't there, if you start interacting with people on the street, that doesn't mean you're asking for it. And that's what bothers me in all of this, is we're supposed to protect ourselves from being victimized. And that means that if we get murdered, it's a random incident, and we shouldn't be afraid. But at the same time, shouldn't we be afraid that we have to protect ourselves from being victimized?
Well, I don't think that anybody, certainly not from the police department, is suggesting that Courtney placed himself in a bad situation. The fact of life nowadays is that you need to target hard, and you need to target hard in your house against break-ins, which are up, and you need to target hard in yourself against walking about in society.
Okay. Let's take some more calls. Let's talk to Anne in Victoria. Hi, Anne.
Yeah, hi. What I have done, and I started this a couple of years ago, I will not deal with any doctors or businesses in the downtown area. I go downtown maybe 3-4 times a year.
Wow.
I just don't want to be bothered by the filth. I cannot stand the filthy, filthy language. We live next to an elementary school. We get the filthy language there. Now, I think we need to banish the Young Offenders Act totally. We need to do away with these scum on the streets. I say do bring in a real tough loitering law for all people. Nobody needs to be bumming around the streets and leaving it Victoria dirty. It's changed so much in the last 20 years.
Okay, I'm going to, I think that you made some very strong statements, and I'd like to hear
I think it's important for the viewers, especially the ones that live in Victoria and frequent the downtown core, is that I deal with the panhandlers on a daily basis. And by far, the majority of them are very nice people. I mean, if you walk by them, if they ask you for money and you say, sorry, I don't have any, most of them will say, thank you, have a nice day. The street people who are hanging on the corner, panhandling for money with their dogs, aren't the problems that I'm dealing with down there.
Okay. Let's talk to Sherry in New Westminster. Hi, Sherry.
Hello, Ms. Tyabji, thank you. And I'd like to send my condolences out to Matt Smith. He was a boy that was murdered here just a few weeks ago in New Westminster, over $30 by our youth. And unfortunately, was a very good friend of my daughter's, who is 15 years old. And I think that you made a point back in the 50s, and as opposed to today, we find that we have two working parents. We have children that are left to fend for themselves.
After school.
After school, they're out there. There's no discipline. There's no. As parents, we'd think, okay, the school system can take care of them. The police will take care of them when out on the street.
Right.
No, this is not right. We as parents need to start raising our children and showing them what good morals and values are.
Okay, I think that I want to let them respond to that. We hear that very often when we do shows about this. When you go into the schools, do you deal with the parents as well?
The information from our programs are given to the parents as to what the curriculum is, but we do not deal with the school child-parent ratio. We do have community meetings, though, and we've gone. We have 13 different communities within the city, and we've gone to each of the communities to talk to them about various problems in the communities. We are trying to deal with the communities.
Okay, and let's talk now to Tammy in Victoria. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Go ahead.
Actually, I live in a Squamalt, and I had a problem with a lot of teenagers and a lot of stuff. I had put a curfew up, and I had it up for 2 days in a Squamalt, and I had like over 250 signatures for it. But then I had a meeting with the mayor and the chief of police and Tom Woods, who I think is a great person.
Right.
And it was kind of blown off that it was impossible to do, da-da-da-da. But I really believe this has been since last year.
Now, you were circulating a petition, is what you're saying.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
On one block for 2 days, and I had 250 signatures.
So everybody signed it, basically.
Oh, yeah,
most
you know,
people.
and I mean, this was last year that I did this, and I mean, since last year to now, it's just blown out of proportion. Like, there's just so much violence.
Okay, thank you for raising that. We heard Bob Cross say a curfew's not enforceable. Why not?
The Charter of Rights and Freedoms, number one, it's just not enforceable. It would be challenged in court and would probably lose it. It wouldn't even get there. And I think the other thing with a curfew is, again, we would be punishing 98% of the good kids who maybe go out and play hockey, play basketball, going out to play a video game, and again, whitewashing the 98% and, you know, trying to punish the 2%. So.
Well, I guess we can get into a long debate about this, but we're actually due for a break, so I will bite my tongue and we'll be right back.
What do you get with Amigo Digital? Every month you get 100 anytime minutes and 100 first incoming minutes free.
Yeah, I'm free.
You get call display.
Staying in touch doesn't mean staying in.
And oh yeah, there's no long-term contract.
I call the shots.
And you get it all for just $19.95 a month. Amigo Digital. It goes with you.
Call to order Rogers Me TV now and you could win a trip to historic England
I'm so into history.
or one of 10 Sony home theaters. There's over $300,000 in prizes, including a grand prize of $50,000. The earlier you enter, the more chances to win. And with 16 channels for as little as $5.99, you can't lose. Order Me TV today to win. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1.
Hey, don't switch that dial, because this is gonna make you smile.
From red tabs to silver tabs, all Levi's jeans and tops for men, women, and kids are now 25% off.
And me, Mr. Magical Moose, only $9.93.
There's more Christmas surprises at Woodgrove Center.
Become a smart shopper this Christmas at Woodgrove Center, because Woodgrove's got more of everything. More than 100 stores with great gift ideas. More new stores like Boca, Roots, and the Sunglass Hut. More convenience, more style, more shopping hours. Shop smart this Christmas. Shop Woodgrove Center.
More Christmas at Woodgrove Center.
Tech TV. It's here where the truth comes out.
What? You're going to inspire a whole new generation of leaders.
Okay, your father's waiting for you downstairs. I'll put a brownie and a peach in your pocket.
Veronica's Closet, tonight at 9:30.
Coming up tomorrow, we'll talk about domestic violence and how to prevent it during the Christmas season. And then on Monday, forestry, a look at Skeena Cellulose and recent layoffs. And the recall initiatives, including the one on Vancouver Island. And then the Green Christmas, which is the commercialization of Christmas and the alternatives. And next week, Mike Smith will be filling in for me. I hope you make him feel really welcome. I'll mention that again tomorrow. And we'll go back to the phones and see how many people we can allow to comment. First, Judy and Duncan. Hi, Judy.
Hi, thanks for having me on. First of all, I think there should be no acceptable violence. Someone previously was talking about what is acceptable with violence, and I think there should be none.
Right.
And I think it begins long before they're teenagers or adults. It's when they're toddlers. Right. And it's very sad to see people sit their toddlers in front of televisions and let them watch violent cartoons or violent shows. Right. And instead, I think instead of doing that, get them involved in something, first of all, in the family, and get them involved in some sort of sport or in some sort of activity that they can carry through until their teen years. Right. And also, we need more shows like yours on this subject as well. Okay. And I think each time something like this is on, perhaps a couple of parents, even if a couple of parents can get an idea from these types of shows, and they can sit back and look at their young children. Right. By the time they're teenagers, maybe we can look back on this sort of thing and just think it was an era from the past, and we won't have to deal with it anymore.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comments. I want to take another call and then have you guys respond so we can get as many people as possible. Robin in Vancouver. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Go ahead.
I'm a bit of a world traveler, and what I see here is essentially weakness in the system, as was alluded to earlier.
Right.
And if you look at the extreme, I say extreme again, is Singapore, with a very low street crime, very strong laws, to the anarchies of some of the third world countries, or even our friends to the south in some of the streets.
Right.
I think there's a weakness in the family. I see that here. There's a weakness in the school system. There's a weakness in the support that happens to first offenders, and I think there's definitely a weakness in the laws that everybody alluded to. It's a very complex problem, and I wonder what the gentlemen think about having to deal with the laws as they exist right now, where it's very weak, and they have. That's why they have repeat offenders, because it's so weak.
Okay, well, you may be compromised in offering an opinion on that, but both of those people had very wise comments.
I think as a police officer, what I do is, I do what I have to do under the law. And when it gets to courts, that's a different story. That's up to the judges and the juries to make a decision. Is it frustrating sometimes? Sure it is, but I don't let that affect me in the way that I do my job in the downtown core.
I guess ultimately you can't.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Let's take another call and we'll let you answer that one. Let's talk to Ross now in Victoria. Hi, Ross.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's time that they lobbied the federal government to bring back the vagrancy laws.
Okay.
And, first of all, they're ruining the tourism downtown. They're ruining the business, and now it's up to murder.
Right.
I think it's time for regional policing, where the Victoria police are downtown fighting crime.
Right.
And the outlying policemen, with all their kids are downtown, they're fighting for a spot at the local Tim Hortons.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll let Harvey answer that.
Well, certainly Victoria Police are very much in favor of amalgamation. We have the highest caseloads per officer in the province.
So the resources can be allocated in Victoria?
Well, yes. Well, not necessarily just in Victoria, but do a lot of programs together. I believe by integrating some of our major crime, our juvenile sections and those sorts of things, that we could probably do a better overall job in the capital region. So very much in favor of amalgamation.
Okay. And let's talk to Karen in Powell River. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
I think it's about time that us as parents in our generation wake up and face the fact that we failed our children, just as perhaps our parents have failed us. There is a weakness everywhere, and I think that blaming the children is not the answer, and I don't think that providing them with more opportunities for leisure is the answer. I think it's jobs. Our children have no future to look forward to because we cannot provide them with a way to sustain a living for themselves, and us as parents are having a hard time making ends meet. So I think with jobs, creating more jobs, it might be the answer.
Okay, well, I think that's a very interesting comment. The economic pressure that always...
And the children are our future. And I remember when I was younger, the video games I used to play was Pong or Pac-Man. Now you go into any arcade and it's Mortal Kombat. I mean, our children are becoming desensitized to the issue of violence, and that has to change. And I think it has to change at the home.
Okay, let's take a last call from Ed in Victoria. Hi, Ed. Ed? Oh, okay, maybe not. Well, I'm going to, since we're almost out of time, ask you guys if you have any last comments for the viewers.
Well, just one thing, Judy. I know you were very good friends with Court Walls, and I'm just wondering what kind of sense a person like Court would have made out of something like this. What do you think that his message would be?
Well, it's tough to answer something like that, but the only thing I can say based on what I knew of him was he was one of those people who would never shy away from a challenge. And in fact, in my opinion, if he were an apathetic person, he might still be alive, but he really cared about people. And I think that, I hope that in this incident, we won't turn away from each other, but we'll actually try to fix the problem together. And I think he would not want any hatred to come out of what happened, but would want us to move to the next step. So even if you're angry, you could make it constructive. That's all I can say about that. And I see we're out of time. So thank you both, and I'm sure we'll return to the subject in the new year.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Okay. And if you want to contact us, you can do it this way. You can write to Tyabji at 780 Kings Road, Victoria, BC, V8T 5A2. You can fax us at 250-389-1226. Email is tyabji@wic.ca. And our internet website for this and other shows is www.checktv.com. And my thanks also to those who participated in this show. I think there were some very constructive comments. We'll be right back.
Your skin's natural exfoliation process slows down as you get older, and that's why your skin can start to look dull. So how can you help revive the process? A solution was presented at a World Dermatology Conference, beta-hydroxy. Now part of this advanced Olay moisturizer, this formula helps stimulate the skin's natural exfoliation process to help leave your skin glowing with renewed radiance. And the name? New Daily Renewal Cream from Oil of Olay. Proof we can help you look younger.
Me, here it goes.
It's yours, got it. Quit dripping on me.
Hey, Mom.
Hi, guys. Hey.
Worked up a sweat, huh? Yeah, sort of. You got anything interesting? We got pop, orange, purple stuff.
Sweet deal.
Yeah, tastes like orange and tangerine.
Mine.
And it's got vitamins A, B1, and C. Excellent.
Hey, good service.
Hey, way to go, Mom. Sunny Delight is here. It's goodness kids go for.
This holiday from Eaton's, discover the romantic fragrance L'air du Temps and receive absolutely free this 3-piece gift set.
Call to order Rogers Me TV now and you could win a trip to historic England
I'm so into history.
or one of 10 Sony home theaters. There's over $300,000 in prizes, including a grand prize of $50,000. The earlier you enter, the more chances to win. And with 16 channels for as little as $5.99, you can't lose. Order Me TV today to win. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1.
I'm June Callwood, and I support USC Canada because their community programs in Africa and Asia work. Please help make a difference in the battle against poverty. Call 1-800-5656-USC.
Unfortunately, domestic violence is something that is a reality all year, but especially at Christmas time. Domestic violence goes on the rise, but we'd like to look at ways to prevent it. And we'll talk about some of those tomorrow. These are very heavy subjects, but if you would like to contribute to Courtney Walls Trust Fund, you can make a check out to Jones Emery in Trust for Courtney Walls. You can mail or drop it at the Jones Emery Law Office, which is Suite 1212, 1175 Douglas Street, Victoria, BC. And as I mentioned earlier, his wife is pregnant and the baby's due shortly. So I think that I almost have rage burnout on some of these issues. I'd really like to see us come to some solutions, and one of the ways is through dialogue, and we will return to this subject as well in the new year. We'll see you tomorrow.